I used to think the people who talked about manifestation were either lying to themselves or lying to everyone else. Then one Tuesday morning, 3 things I had quietly wished for happened within 4 hours of each other. And instead of feeling lucky, I felt something closer to dread. I was 34, working as an operations coordinator for a mid-sized logistics company in Ohio. My life ran on spreadsheets and routines. Wake up at 6:40. Coffee, black. Same drive, same left turn onto Route 9, same parking spot if I got there before 7:15. I wasn't unhappy exactly. I was just paused. Somewhere around age 30 I'd stopped expecting things to change, and there's a strange comfort in that. If you don't expect anything, nothing can really disappoint you. My coworker Denise was the one who kept talking about manifestation. She had a vision board taped inside her cabinet door, and every few weeks she'd tell me about something she'd called in, a parking spot, a refund, once even a used car that showed up for sale exactly when she needed one. I nodded along and thought, privately, that she was just noticing coincidences and ignoring everything that didn't fit the story. Confirmation bias with better lighting. But that Tuesday, half out of boredom, half out of some itch I couldn't explain, I wrote 3 things on a sticky note before I left for work. Not because I believed it would do anything. More like an experiment to prove Denise wrong. I want a real conversation with someone who actually sees me. I want to stop feeling invisible in meetings. I want something to change, even if I don't know what. I stuck the note inside my desk drawer and forgot about it within the hour. By 10 a.m., our director, a man named Rick who had said maybe 11 words to me in 2 years, stopped by my desk and asked what I thought about the Denver account. Not what my boss thought I should say. What I thought. I gave him a real answer, and he actually listened, nodded twice, and said, "Yeah, that's what I was missing." Small thing. But it had never happened before. At noon, I ran into a woman named Priya at the coffee cart outside the building. We'd crossed paths maybe a dozen times over the years, always a polite nod, nothing more. That day she was upset about something. Her flight had been cancelled, and instead of the usual small talk, we ended up talking for 25 minutes about her father, about grief, about how strange it is to lose someone gradually versus all at once. It was the most honest conversation I'd had with anyone in months, and she was practically a stranger. By early afternoon I'd half forgotten the sticky note existed. Then, at 2:15, my manager, without any prompting, asked me to lead a project I'd quietly wanted for almost a year. She said, "I don't know why I didn't think of you sooner." I remember standing there with the words in my hands, so to speak, and feeling this odd, cold clarity instead of joy. 3 wishes. 3 hours. That's not a coincidence, I thought. That's not how coincidences work. I went home that night and didn't tell anyone what had happened, because I didn't fully understand what I'd tell them. I sat at my kitchen table with the sticky note in front of me and just stared at it like it might explain itself. Part of me wanted to believe there was something almost supernatural in it. Another part of me, the part that had built a career on being logical, refused to accept that. I remember thinking, there has to be an explanation that doesn't require magic. I just haven't found it yet. For the next several days, I paid closer attention. Not to the universe. To myself. I noticed that when I'd written, "I want a real conversation with someone who sees me," something in my posture had changed that morning without my realizing it. I'd made eye contact longer than usual with Rick when he passed my desk. I'd asked him a follow-up question instead of just answering his. With Priya, I hadn't rushed past her with a polite nod like every other time. I'd actually stopped walking. I'd asked how she was doing, and I'd meant it, because the sticky note had put the idea of connection at the front of my mind instead of the back. And the project I got handed, I realized later that I'd mentioned, offhand, to my manager 3 weeks earlier that I was interested in it. I'd forgotten I said it. She hadn't. None of it had appeared out of nowhere. I had been walking around invisible, not because the world had decided to overlook me, but because I had stopped signaling that I wanted to be seen. The sticky note hadn't summoned anything. It had changed what I paid attention to, and attention, it turns out, changes behavior in ways so small you don't notice you're doing it. That was the turning point for me, sitting at that kitchen table. Not the day itself, the day was just 3 ordinary events that happened to line up. The turning point was realizing that for years I had been mistaking passivity for peace. I'd told myself I didn't expect much because I didn't want to be disappointed, but really I think I was just protecting myself from the effort of trying. Wanting something out loud, even just to a sticky note, felt like it exposed me to some kind of judgment I couldn't quite name. I started writing things down again after that, not because I thought I was casting a spell, but because I noticed that naming what I wanted made me act slightly differently. If I wrote down that I wanted to feel less invisible in meetings, I found myself speaking up 2 minutes earlier than I normally would have, before the moment passed and the conversation moved on without me. If I wrote that I wanted to reconnect with an old friend, I noticed my thumb hovering over their name in my contacts instead of scrolling past it like always. It wasn't the universe rearranging itself around my desires. It was me finally admitting what my desires were, out loud, on paper, where I couldn't pretend not to know them anymore. A few weeks later, Denise asked me how my manifesting was going. She'd noticed I seemed different, more present somehow, and I'd mentioned the sticky note experiment in passing. I told her honestly what I'd figured out. That I didn't think I was pulling things toward me from some invisible field. I thought I'd just stopped hiding from my own wants. She smiled and said that was basically what she meant the whole time, she just didn't have the words for it the way I did. Maybe we'd been describing the same thing from 2 different rooms. What surprised me most wasn't that my life changed. It was how uncomfortable it felt to admit I had wanted things all along. There's a strange kind of safety in low expectations. If you never say what you want, you never have to watch yourself fail to get it, and you never have to sit with the fact that maybe you were the one holding yourself back the whole time. I think that's the part nobody tells you about manifestation, or vision boards, or any of it. It's not that wanting things works some kind of magic on the world. It's that wanting things, and admitting it, works on you. I still write things down sometimes, on the same kind of sticky notes, in the same handwriting that's a little too fast to read clearly. I don't fully know what I believe about coincidence anymore, and honestly, I've stopped needing to resolve that argument with myself. What I do know is that the version of me who stopped expecting anything wasn't at peace. She was just scared, dressed up as calm. I think about that Tuesday sometimes, not because anything mystical happened, but because it was the day I noticed how much of my life I'd been quietly declining to ask for. And I wonder how many people are sitting in their own version of that pause right now, mistaking their silence for contentment, waiting for something to change without ever once saying, even to themselves, what it is they actually want.